Hello, I am at the Dongguk University, and this is the last speaker in Thailand. There is the Thammasat University, and we will have Dr. Kakanang Yavaprabhas who will speak. She majored in anthropology, gender studies, and she researches about Bhikkhuni Sangha. So today, the title will be Bhikkhunis in Thailand, Sangha Society and Situations.
Okay, so let me first pay respect to the nuns and the monks here. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Kakanang, and I feel very honored to be here today and to meet you all. So, thank you for inviting me. And I am the last presenter in this conference. I hope you are still with me now. Okay. So, I have been following the Thai Bhikkhunis for 10 years, and today I'm talking about them. Okay, I start my PowerPoint. Yeah, so my presentation is about Bhikkhunis in Thailand, Sangha Society and Situations. Okay, so this is the brief outline of my presentation. I will first give a brief introduction and then talk about the social ambiguity of the female renunciant in alternative form in Thailand. And then I will talk about the history and development of the Bhikkhunis in Thailand. After that, I will talk about the current situations, and then I will conclude my presentation. Okay, so, well, in Thailand, it is dominated by Buddhists, and as high as 93.5% of the population self-identify as Buddhist. The monastics in Thailand are highly revered and are in very high status. Also, the saffron robe that they are wearing are regarded as sacred. But this sacredness is traditionally not accessible for women, because traditionally only Thai men can be ordained in this saffron robe. So is the saffron robe like Venerable Liu Fab is wearing? Yeah, and in general, Thai women are taught since young age that they should not touch the robe. They have to stay away from the robe. And like the first time I met the Thai Bhikkhunis, they will tell me and the lay women that, okay, you can touch our robe, it's fine. So this is how the sacredness of the saffron robe is valued in Thai society and is traditionally not accessible for women. And the point that the Thai women cannot be fully ordained may relate to the history of Buddhism in Thailand. Historical evidence show that the Buddhism arrived in the regions that is now Thailand around the 5th century, both the Theravada and the Mahayana Buddhism. But the Theravada Buddhism became dominant in the country around the 13th to 15th century with the kingdom of Sukhothai. And the Sukhothai king, they support the Mahavihara lineage from Sri Lanka and make the Theravada tradition become dominant. But the Bhikkhuni lineage in Sri Lanka died out before that time, so this is probably why the Bhikkhuni has not arrived in Thailand, and traditionally they do not exist in Thai society. Yeah, so you can see the high status of the monastic in saffron robe in the right picture. Yeah. And yeah, it should also be noted that although Theravada tradition is dominant in Thai society, the lay people in general may not care that much about, okay, what is Theravada, or is this practice generally Theravada or not. The so-called Thai Buddhism are blended with many things. For example, you can see in this the okay. I have problem with the direction. Yeah, the another picture. Okay, I can point, right? Yep. No. Oh. Okay, but in the picture on the left-hand side of me, that's the picture of the Brahmanic tribe, and it's a spiritual tribe which is influenced by Brahmanism. It's called San Prapum, and it's very common in Thailand. There is even one in our home back in Thailand. So Thai Buddhism are blended with all these other religious beliefs, particularly animism and Brahmanism. And the local creation in Thai society from many creation that is seen in the society as Buddhist, but they are actually existed only in Thai society or in the region. And because religion in Thai society has not been privatized, it is very influential in the society. And the point that the Buddhism, which is blended with other beliefs, are influential in Thai society, relate very much to the importance of the social values of ordination in the saffron robe in Thai society. And the lack of ordination in the saffron robe for Thai society can create gender hierarchy. And it was only in the 20th century that the first Thai woman could successfully become fully ordained in the saffron robe as the Bhikkhuni. And I think many of you here know her. She's Bhikkhuni Thammasat, and it is remarkable that her ordination as a Theravada Bhikkhuni is after the revival of Theravada Bhikkhuni ordination in Sri Lanka after 1998. Okay, so today I will talk about the Bhikkhunis in Thailand. We start with the ordination of Bhikkhuni Dhammadanta. Okay, let me first talk about the other female renunciants in Thailand, the nuns, who are, I can say that they are not fully ordained. The biggest group of the female renunciants in Thailand are called Mae Chi. Mae means mother, and the Chi still does not have that clear meaning. But the Mae Chi exists in Thailand since at least the 17th century, and they are the biggest group of the female renunciants in Thailand. And like the Thilachin in Myanmar, they keep mostly as precepts, and some of them keep 10 precepts. Well, of course, they can be highly revered, and it is not about their spiritual practice or anything like that. But their status as Mae Chi is still ambiguous socially, because the saffron robes are associated with sacredness and with the monastic status. The white robe that the Mae Chi wear does not symbolize this, and well, their status in general are ambiguous, and they cannot have the social impacts on society as much as the Bhikkhuni who wear the saffron robe. Okay, so coming back to the beginning and the history of Bhikkhunis in Thailand. So here you can see the general timeline of the development of the Bhikkhuni in Thailand with the three occurrences, with Bhikkhuni Dhammadanta has defined as the three waves. So I will start with the first one in 1928. No? Okay. So the first occurrence or the first wave of the Thai Bhikkhuni start in 1928 with the ordination of Sara and Jongdi, who are daughter of Narin Pasit or Narin Klung, who is very vocal journalist and is very supportive of establishing Bhikkhuni Sangha in Thailand. But the ordination of Sara and Jongdi and other 6 women are faced with obstacles, and they are forced to disrobe by the authorities. And this incident caused the Supreme Sangha Council, which is the council of the monks in Thailand, to react very strongly. And the Sangha Council issued the Sangha Act of the 1928, which forbid Thai monks to ordain Thai women at Samaneri, Sikhamana, or Bhikkhunis. Samaneri and Sikhamanas are like the novice. And this Sangha Act is still talking by and reinstated by the opponents of the Bhikkhuni ordination in Thailand, even though it is stated in 1928. Okay, and the second occurrence or the second wave of the Bhikkhuni in Thailand start with the ordination of Waramai Kabin Singh in Taiwan as Bhikkhuni Tatao. And notably, she does not claim the Theravada identity and does not form the Sangha, but she is the founder of Song Ethovich Monastery and the mother of Bhikkhuni Thammasat. And here we come to the current one, which is the third wave, beginning by ordination of Dr. Chatsuman Kabin Singh as Bhikkhuni Thammasat as seminary in 2001 and as Bhikkhuni in 2003. She received her ordination in Sri Lanka. And before ordination, Dr. Chatsuman Kabin Singh had been a lecturer at Thammasat University for 27 years. And she had been actively supporting the Bhikkhuni ordination since 1983. And she is also one of the founders of Sakadita, an important organization supporting the full ordination of Buddhist women around the world, along with others such as Venerable Lecture, who is here today. So, after supporting the Bhikkhuni ordination for 18 years, in 2001, she decided to receive seminary ordination in Sri Lanka. And even though she had to face like the social obstacle, she still continued in her path and she has strong determination. And in 2003, she been to Sri Lanka again and received her Bhikkhuni ordination and become Bhikkhuni Thammasat. So after her ordination, more and more Thai women receive ordination, particularly in Sri Lanka, and follow her footsteps. And this is like the beginning of the contemporary existence of Bhikkhuni in Thailand today. Okay, so I will talk about the current situations of the Bhikkhunis in Thailand now. So now there are at least 285 Bhikkhunis and novices in the country, and they exist in every region in the country and exist in more than 30 provinces out of 77 provinces. It may seem that their number is quite small comparing to the number of monks in the country, but if you are thinking that like 20 years ago there's zero of them, and now there are like at least 285. This is quite a lot, and it's a constant growing of the Bhikkhuni Sangha in Thailand. Most of them stay at their own self-governed monastery, and I will talk about some of the established monastery later. Some of them stay at the temple or at the meditation center. And well, even though their religious status is not recognized by the state, they can still continue growing. Religious status is not recognized by the state because of the Supreme Sangha Council stance toward the Bhikkhuni ordination in Thailand. Well, as you all know, there is like a very hot debate about legitimacy of ordination, which I will not talk about it here today. But well, the Supreme Sangha Council is really against the Bhikkhuni ordination in Thailand. And the government of Thailand listened to the voice of the Supreme Sangha Council, and this really affects their religious status in the country. Like when they issue the national ID card, they still have to use Miss or Mrs. in front of their names, and their treatment from the government differ from department to department, really depends on individual person. So, well, even though they are not recognized by the state, they can still try to continue their existence. And this is why they have to go to receive their ordination in Sri Lanka for most of them. In the picture, you can see that this is the picture of the Bhikkhuni ordination in Thailand, which happened in 2014 at Tipayasathan Thamma Bhikkhuni Arama, which is an established monastery in the southern part. That time, it is the first time that the Bhikkhuni ordination is held publicly in Thailand. But sadly, it probably be the last time. Well, I will talk about it later. But here, it's very remarkable that in that year, the Bhikkhuni ordination can be held in the soil of Thailand. And many monks and Bhikkhunis are invited from abroad, including from Vietnam and also from Sri Lanka, to conduct the ordination at this monastery. And in total, 8 Thai Sikhamana received the Bhikkhuni ordination at this monastery. And well, some of them, they are now like the abbess of this monastery. But as I said, sadly, the Supreme Sangha Council reacted very strongly with this incident. The Sangha Council reinstated their Sangha Act of 1928, like ages ago. They just restated that Sangha Act again to tell every monk in Thailand not to ordain women. More than that, they even cooperate with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to, they try to cooperate with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs not to let the bhikkhus and the bhikkhuni who are involved in the bhikkhuni ordination to get into the country without their consent. So in short, it means that they just close the door for the bhikkhuni ordination in Thailand because the Sangha Council will not get the certificate for the bhikkhu and the bhikkhunis who want to involve in the bhikkhuni ordination. And so they cannot enter the country. And so that's sadly probably be the last time that the ordination can happen in the soil of Thailand. After that incident, most Thai bhikkhuni, if they want the ordination as bhikkhuni, they still have to go abroad to Sri Lanka to receive the ordination. But because of the COVID-19 situation in the last 2 years, it is like nearly impossible to go abroad and receive ordination. So this is another obstacle that they have to face. Okay, so I will introduce to Etsovich Monastery in the country. Actually, there are more established monasteries in the country, like as I said, that they are in every region. But these two are like the very important ones that I have to talk about. The first one is Song Dhamma Kalyani Monastery, or Wat Song Tham Kalyani in Thai. For this monastery, this is probably the most renowned one in Thailand because Bhikkhuni Thammananta is the abbess here, and the monastery receives visitors daily, and including the non-Thai visitor. I used to stay there for a couple of months during my PhD thesis, and I have learned a lot while being there. And for the Song Dhamma Kalyani Monastery, it is like the first stop for the people who want to know about the bhikkhuni issue to come here and to learn with the bhikkhunis and the novices here. And interestingly, they also host the medicine Buddha, which is in the blue color in the vihara. And sometimes the lay people come to the monastery to just pay respect to the medicine Buddha, hoping that the medicine Buddha will heal them. And this is remarkable because you cannot really see the medicine Buddha in other temples in Thailand. And for another established monastery is the monastery in Chiang Mai in the northern part of Thailand. It is called Nirodharam or Nirodharam in Thai. For this community, the renunciant used to be the Mashi for a very long time. The leader, who is the late Bhikkhuni Nantayani, she used to be a Mashi for like 26 years before receiving the Bhikkhuni ordination. And she received the ordination in Sri Lanka in 2006 and 2008, and after she received ordination, her disciple also followed her to receive ordination, and the monastery changed to become the Bhikkhuni monastery. And the Nirodharam is like the biggest community of Bhikkhunis and novices in Thailand. They host around 50 of them, and now they have like 5 branches, including this one. But well, sadly, the Bhikkhuni Nantayani, she just passed away in February this year, and it is still unknown who will lead this community after her. For this community, it is like very respected among local people because they have been well known since they are Meshi. So these two are like important established monastery that I introduced to you. And now I will talk about their activities, and this is very important activity held in so many established Bhikkhuni monastery in the country, which is called the temporary seminary ordination. What I mean by temporary here is that because the women who are ordained here, they intend to be ordained for a short period of time. Of course, it's hard to define what is temporary and what is a long term, but for this group of women, they intend to be ordained temporarily. So I just call it temporary seminary ordination. So seminary is the novice of the Bhikkhunis, and they keep 10 precepts, and they also wear the saffron robe. This temporary seminary ordination for the public is initiated by Bhikkhuni Thammananta in 2009, and now is available at most Bhikkhuni monastery in Thailand in every region. And this one is very important because it is linked with the local belief and tradition in the society about the temporary ordination of men. Like traditionally, it is thought that children are in debt to their parents and they have to repay the debt, and the most renowned way is through ordination in the saffron robe. So traditionally, only men as sons can do this to repay the debt to their parents through ordination. And women cannot do this at all because traditionally they cannot be ordained. And women are expected traditionally to just taking care of the parent, but it is not as highly valued as the religious way of repaying the debt to parents. So this is very important because like for many women who join in this temporary ordination, their main motivation is to repay the debt to parents. And they even tell me that they used to feel like they have bad karma to be born as women because they cannot repay the debt to their parents. But here when they can do it, it is very empowering for them. Well, this is like the social impact, and it is I think this is like the most socially impactful aspect of the Thai Bhikkhuni existence in Thailand. So now at least 1,700 women have experienced this temporary ordination. Of course, apart from repaying the debt to parents, they can also learn about Dhamma and also learn about the monastic ways of living. And this temporary ordination can change the gender ideology and the gender roles in Thailand in a very positive way. Okay, So now I'm talking about the other project for society by Sangha Kalyani Monastery. I will focus only on that project during the COVID-19 situation. For the picture on my right hand side, this is the picture as part of the project named Mending Your Heart from Bhikkhuni, which is the project that Bhikkhuni Thammanatha and the monastic there want to help the lady who has to face the strong hardship during the COVID-19 situation. And this project operated in 2020. In that time, there is a lockdown implementation by the state, and so many lay people are affected by this. So the monastery, they initiate this project and help them by giving them money for like 5,000 baht per month from April to June 2020. And in total, 50 persons were helped through this project. And in this picture, you can see the woman in the white shirt. She is Dr. Kanchana Suthikun, who is the right-hand person of Bhikkhuni Thammanatha, and she also kindly giving me interview for this conference. For another picture, it is from another project called From Heart to Heart. We will go through this together. It is the project that started in March 2021 and still operated until today. It aimed at helping broader lay people than the other one by giving them thana, giving them uncooked rice and food for the lady to maintain their life during this hardship of COVID time. And in the picture, you can see Bhikkhuni Thammanatha giving stuff to people. But later, because of the situation, they changed from giving the stuff in front of the monastery to sending representatives to give the stuff to lay people in the communities. Okay, so in conclusion, I have talked about the development of Bhikkhunis in Thailand, focusing on the social importance of the saffron robe in Thai society and the importance of having the Bhikkhunis in Thai society. Well, as mentioned, it is highly unlikely that the Bhikkhuni will gain the legal status from the state, but their social status is guaranteed by their local followers. And a very important way of reaching to the lady in this digital era is through social media. As you can see in the picture, is the picture of the Sangha Kalyani Monastery Facebook. And now, like nearly every monastery, they have their own Facebook pages and accounts to reach out to the lady. So, comparing to the long existence of Buddhism and of monks in Thailand, the existence of Theravada Bhikkhuni from the 20th century seems very recent. And they are also not supported by the state and have to constantly face obstacles from established institutions. Truly, they can continue their existence largely because of the laity. And what allowed them to gain support from the laity is their own behavior, charisma, and contribution to both Thai society and to Buddhism. Okay, so yeah, my presentation ends here. Thank you very much for listening.
So in Thailand, there are still royalties, and there is a Sangha Supreme Council. And in 2000, there were Bhikkhuni who were ordained, but the Sangha Supreme Council just did not let them be. So in the 11th century, the Bhikkhuni Sangha disappeared and in Sri Lanka. But in Thailand, the Bhikkhuni, we call them usually mechis. But compared to Myanmar, there are not so many nuns. But if Bhikkhuni, like Bhikkhuni Dhammananda, could work, could do some more efforts for the Bhikkhuni Sangha with lay Buddhists, there would be a very